arts is the art, craft, history, the whole aspect of a culture that's coming forward in the built form, be it a statue, a monument, or a school, or a house.
And preservation arts can span historical understanding of the buildings and how they've evolved over time, how they've been used over time. It also includes technical study of the materials, craft, learning how to take care of the buildings. It's a kind of interdisciplinary pursuit. Our interest at the World Monuments Fund in this theme is because we observed that there's not a new generation of craftspeople being trained in America to pursue preservation arts on the craft level, on the hands-on level. And it's very hard to find qualified people to work on important buildings. There are opportunities here that we felt could be very rewarding for young people, and young people didn't really know about them. The Preservation Arts program at the Brooklyn High School for the Arts is the first high school level program that we're aware of in America that's studied this particular area.
The instructions are on the board. This will be handed in at the end of the period. Right up there.
Preservation really is an academically based or derived pursuit. You can't really preserve your history if you don't know what it is and why it's important to you and where you fit in to the historic picture. The Brooklyn High School of the Arts Preservation Arts curriculum is based on a reciprocity between the academic learning and the hands-on expression of that learning in the context of the preservation arts industry. So what that really means is that in the classroom you're learning a region standard curriculum, but you're learning it through the historic preservation process.
Did you see the stock exchange poster we have up on the wall here? All right? There are a lot of different commodities and a lot of different goods that can be traded.
The Preservation Arts program is the underlying thread throughout the curriculum. In each of the subject areas, teachers try to integrate the benchmarks in any of the topics that they're teaching.
All right, today as we see our benchmark is the New York Stock Exchange.
Everybody come up close. Okay, we're almost all here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And can anybody tell us just 2 sentences what's the New York Stock Exchange? Yes, sir.
The stockbrokers have, when they buy and sell their stocks. Yeah.
Okay, very
That's
good.
the basic thing. Yeah.
Very good. So we buy and sell stock.
Now you look up in the pediment, and Miss King in our math class taught us all about how we could measure. So when you look up at this pediment and you're saying, I wonder how tall that main statue is, you can calculate that by knowing the hypotenuse and the legs of the triangle.
What would you look as a symbol of wealth for this country?
And you notice that at the apex, the center, that's our tallest part. We're building up to the crescendo where we're really looking at industry as an allegory for wealth and power.
New York Stock Exchange is perhaps our greatest symbol of wealth.
So now when you look at this corner of the building, this is the addition where it says New York Stock Exchange.
How is exchange related to what we've learned so far? What happened with those chromosomes?
They transported information to each other.
And when you look up at the columns, they're 52 feet tall. You see there are Corinthian columns at the top. Behind there is the pit.
We're the Brooklyn High School of the Arts Commodities Exchange.
It's an interdisciplinary curriculum. So English, math, science, and history are all combined to fully understand a period and place in time as expressed by a particular architectural or object type structure. So the Brooklyn Bridge or Brooklyn Borough Hall or Central Park, these are all buildings or places that were created in a specific time period, and they represent all of the cultural, social, economic, and academic influences of that time. So having learned this in the classroom where you really have a sense of how is my subject area related to each other? The interdisciplinary aspect of it that's a challenge for our teachers is the fact that they need, in order to make the curriculum successful, to actually be having a dialogue themselves about their curriculum.
I'm looking at, the New York Stock Exchange as a symbol of power for the economy of the United States, of the world. And then I also look at, DNA as a symbol of power of changing the human being. What are the 4 major things the New York Stock Exchange must be able to do? If we relate it to DNA, what must it be able to do? Go ahead, Crystal.
Store lots of information.
I think that's the brilliance of this program. And obviously a lot of very subtle thinking has gone into how to link something like the idea of the comparison between the body and the market and the stock exchange and how it works as an entity, as a kind of living entity, is fascinating.
So we'll look at the function of the building, of what goes on inside, and compare it to what goes on in the cell and see if it's still, the chaotic atmosphere that goes on inside the cell, it still happens.
It's really very original and exciting.
The goal of the Preservation Arts High School internship program is to link the preservation arts-based academic curriculum with the actual hands-on practice of historic preservation.
At first, when Miss Littlefield, my preservation arts teacher, and Kate told me about it, they gave me options, and I remember seeing stained glass, and I never knew I was going to be able to learn how to do it.
So I thought, getting into detail about learning about preservation, it would be a good job to get into. So.
The whole idea is to have students have an opportunity to get out into the field, to understand the profession from a practice point of view, and at the same time be able to really have an appropriate or a demonstrable use of the learning that they're getting in the classroom.
He's good. Can you still remember what he did in the beginning, yeah?
So that's a pretty rare opportunity for a high school level student to be able to do something in their out-of-class time that might actually lead to a career.
Maybe I could actually teach, because I want to keep doing this, and if I learn how to do it as a professional, I could actually go on teaching it. Not bad. Maybe have my own studio one day too.
You really can begin to see the beginnings of a movement that's really going to enrich our educational system and open up the opportunity to expose young people to something that they might never ever come across otherwise as a way of looking at the world. And that's a pretty big objective to set.
I'm done.
The preservation industry has grown large enough to really need a workforce supply. And so having industry recognize this need is very important, particularly to our educational systems, whose in large measure our job is to grow our students to become our future workers of tomorrow, leaders of tomorrow, entrepreneurs of tomorrow. So the idea from that perspective is very ready.